Okay, nice to meet everybody. I'll just quickly introduce myself. So I've been working with SAP since the mid-1990s, initially with SAP Warehouse Management, and then from 2009 with Extended Warehouse Management. I joined Westernacher almost 11 years ago now. And for the last 4 years, I've been sort of heading up our global practice here at Westernacher. I will just quickly introduce Westernacher as a company and then our warehouse practice, and then obviously we'll get into the interesting topics for the day. So Westernacher, we're over 850 people globally right now. We're quite a niche company in the fact that we're 100% employee owned, so people like myself are a partner of the company, so we have a vested interest to make this company a success. We started out in 1969 and we've had over 25 years now as an SAP partner. In terms of our warehouse practice, we're over 200 people globally. We've been involved in warehousing for over 30 years now, initially with our own ABAP-based warehouse management solution called WLS. But since 2006, our focus has been SAP EWM. In 2006, we was a partner of SAP on the first ever implementation of EWM, a company called EWM-based in Germany. And some of our other firsts as a sort of warehouse practice, we was the first company to implement S4HANA Decentral at a paints manufacturer in France. We did the first ever EWM implementation in China, the first EWM implementation on a HANA database, the first EWM MFS projects in Asia, and the first EWM project with mobile robots in China. So today we're going to talk about 3 topics, and this is really just it's a high level insight in terms of how you can use the latest technologies with EWM. The first topic will be around using the use of a drone for physical inventory. The second topic will be the use of glasses for a picking operation. And the third topic will be around sort of robotics and a framework to enable sort of multiple vendors to work in that one warehouse environment. So the first topic, the physical inventory drone. What we did a couple of years ago, we looked at how we can accelerate, and not just accelerate, but also increase the efficiency in a stock take in a warehouse. Yeah, many warehouses, they have to stop the operation for 24, 48 hours to do a full physical inventory count. If people are trying to count as the operation is going on, sometimes it's quite hard, time consuming, and, quite exhaustive in terms of labor requirements, okay? So we looked at that and we looked at physical inventory drones. There are for sure third-party applications out on the market, but what we've developed here is a sort of integrated drone directly to SAP EWM via Fiori. Okay, why would we do this? Like I said, it's really just to sort of speed up. What we're saying here now, the progress of the trigger of the sort of physical inventory to sort of updating the information to ERP, is less than 30 seconds per bin, irrespective of the height on the sort of Z coordinate. Obviously, it's a higher accuracy, yeah? If we can take out the element of people, then obviously it's people that make mistakes and not the machines. If you just look at the sort of architecture, how this kind of flows, the requirements to enable this are the bin coordinates in EWM. Now, that is obviously a standard sort of setting maintained against the bin master. You can see on the left-hand side here some examples of the coordinates. We need them coordinates because then what we build for each aisle is what we call a reference point at the start of the aisle. That is where the drone would take off from. It would then go to the coordinates of the bins, which are on the flight path, and then obviously it would then land back at the reference point. Okay, we've developed this with an Android solution right now, so it's not iOS, it's just Android only right now. And then what we've sort of built ourselves are some ODatas between the Android application and the back end of EWM. There's some examples here. Like I said, when we do any development work these days, it's always with the new UI of Fiori. Okay, we have a control tower built on Fiori. Okay, what we do as part of a deployment of this is that we sort of do like like a setup pack, if you like. You then create what we call flight paths. Flight paths are, for an example, if you've got 100 bins in an aisle, and we go in and we look at the drones, and we know from a battery life that we can, safely count, let's say 40 bins as an example, we would then create 3 flight paths in that particular aisle. Two counts for 40 bins, and the third count, the remaining count, for the final 20 bins. What we do then is obviously the drone will go out. You can see a couple of sort of screenshots here of the drone sort of in flight, if you like, scanning the barcode. And then the bottom image on the right hand side is what the Android application looks like on the device itself. Okay, we have sort of 2 concepts with this. We can do a sort of real-time verification to the back end. Obviously that's more time consuming from a battery perspective if the connectivity is not that great in some of the spots in the warehouse. Or we can do a full offline count on the drone, and then once the drone lands, we send all of the data which has been captured for the count to the back end of EWM at that point. Obviously, sorry, I'll just go back to that screen. Obviously, there's going to be some labels which you can't count. Okay, so what we do at that point, if we try and record the images on some barcodes, and for whatever reason we're not able to sort of read them, they're scratched or the labels are skewed, we take an image of that and then we record that as part of the actual sort of drone audit itself. And then obviously that would need some user intervention at that point, because if we can't scan something, then obviously we can't record it in the system. Okay, there's 2 use cases for this right now which we've developed. Obviously it's full pallet in racks, and it's also a bulk storage. So in terms of bulk storage, the drone would go take an image of the first sort of pallet, read the sort of product information, look at the bin, and then take an image of how many pallets are in that bin as well. At this point, we're not able to sort of go into a pick face and count individual items. We are looking at that as like a second release of the drone, where we can do sort of more AR and take full images to again increase the number of bins we can count and how we can count individual pieces within that pick face. And that is something which we're working on right now in the background. If we look at a comparison now, these sort of stats come from, when we built this, we did lots of testing in one of our customers' warehouses. And we, it's really just a comparison. It's a high-level comparison, just so you can gauge, the benefits of using more of an automated process. Yeah. We're looking at sort of less than 30 seconds for a bin count. You can see there from a manual operation. So certainly, if you've got to sort of get a forklift, go up to the sort of 8 stack, bring the pallet down to scan it, it's quite a time-consuming process. Yeah. Okay, so let me jump to the video, and this is more of a teaser video for our PI drone. The second topic for the day, what we call in our vision kicking glasses. Right now, we're actually deploying this with a customer in the Nordics. It's like it's a kind of co-innovation. We've done a lot of work on this in the background, and one of our new customers has opted for this feature as part of their implementation. So we're busily working on that. We did do something on this topic a couple of years ago using ITS service from SAP, but it wasn't really efficient enough to actually sort of deploy into that warehouse environment. What we've done in the last sort of 12 months, is started to use the API technology from SAP rather than ITS service, which is still on the devices, to really sort of put what information we need in the screen to the user at the right time, but also the sort of speed of the technology now is much faster and much more, from a performance perspective, it's a really positive move. Okay. Right now we're using glasses from Vuzix. Obviously what we're trying to do is build our solution very sort of generic, let's say, so we can actually plug and play this to most sort of glasses providers. Obviously with some rework will always be needed. Okay, we're kind of going with a hybrid approach, so we've got the best of everything. We can sort of click on the device itself, we can use voice, and we can also use barcode scanning as well. So it really depends on the environment you're working in and really the sort of user's choice at that point in time. Okay. We're using Google Voice Recognition. We're using Kotlin as well, to actually build the solution. Our solution is really driven by system guided with an EWM. Okay, we really want our solution, our technology to drive the user rather than the user having to make decisions. We are, of course, building in certain manual features into the solution, the ability to query handling units, to query products and bins. And we're also building in our sort of KPIs as well. So, people can actually see how they're performing against the rest of the people in the warehouse, and also how the warehouse is performing as well. Okay. So, like I said, it's a native Android development, which we're doing right now. We're using Kotlin, we're using the standard APIs from SAP. It's a hands-free solution, like I said, but you have the ability to use the buttons on the side of the glasses if you so wish as well. And like I said, the KPIs is a really sort of nice point onto this. Again, from an architecture perspective, we've got EWM at the back end. We're using all the old data services and the standard APIs. We have had to build a couple of custom APIs where there's something missing from SAP, but they are very limited, I have to say. And now I really want to show you two really nice use cases. Now, this is an internal video right now, so it's not polished, it's not a final video. But this is, one of our developers who sort of put these together for me, who's actually doing the build of our product. The first use case will be a confirmation of a warehouse task, and there will also be an exception code process in that as well to show you that we've actually built everything into the solution. So before I start to play the video, this is the view through the glass itself, when you're actually wearing them. You can see your KPIs here at the bottom left of the screen. We have built much more substantial KPIs as well, which you can actually call and view in the glass if you so wish. But like I said, the aim of this really is to keep the information to a minimum of the screen to enable the operator to do his job, but not fill the screen with, let's call it useless data. Yeah.
Scan. Order info. Show product. Three, five, four. 6. Seven, 8, 0.
Okay, so that's the first video. I think maybe some of that video link gave away the customer which we're working with. But again, we've built some nice features in that. Like I said, the ability to actually show the product that you're picking, to see how you're working against the other people in the warehouse. Like I said, it's still a work in progress. It's a co-innovation right now, which we're working on, but we're really excited about where this will go. The second video is around, like I said, looking at the KPIs and looking at the queries, which are an essential part of any warehouse worker's operation. Yeah?
Information. Back. Information. Back.
So, like I said, that's more around the queries and around the KPIs which we're building into this. I think it's important, to see the KPIs which are really meaningful, sort of which are maintained on the screen throughout the process. But we do have the other KPIs in the background of this product where you can actually see other things, other topics in the warehouse. We are focusing right now on the picking operation. We're also focusing on physical inventory through the glasses as well. It's very easy for us because it's a system guided process. You're basically, in essence, getting a warehouse order from the back end of EWM to process on the device. We can very quickly do things like put away, do things like replenishment as well. If a customer wants to do that within their operation, we believe it's picking where the most value will come from. But in essence, the glasses will be fully supportable throughout the whole of the warehouse operation. So the third topic for the session today is around automation, but not, let's call it traditional automation as such, but more the robotic and the robotics, the sort of mobile robots, which everybody is hearing more and more about in this current day. Now, we kind of sat down and looked at this, because there's so many of these robotics providers out on the marketplace right now. There's still a need for some what we would deem traditional automation within a warehouse environment. how could, a customer look at using multiple vendors in that one warehouse environment? So our example here, we've got some Dematic MFS, we've got Geek Plus for the robotics, we've got some Swisslog in the sort of small parts picking area, and some Daifuku in the sortation conveyors. So again, it's really looking at this sort of holistic sort of view of all of these multiple automation vendors driving that warehouse operation. What we've started to develop is what we call our automation framework. Okay, so you typically can sort of silo automation into these three pillars: standard automation equipment, where it's typically TCP, IP, telegrams, and that is the sort of the automation equipment leveraging the sort of MFS standard from EWM, and also our framework, which is around sort of conveyors, transfer cars, rack feeders, and such like. Okay, we then have like what we're calling the sort of specialized automation equipment. Again, TCP, IP, telegrams, and looking at how we can leverage our framework, okay, over the sort of telegram communication via TCP and IP. These are things like vertical lift machines, like AGVs, pick-to-lights, print and apply. Then we have the more advanced automation equipment. Now, these are going with the sort of traditional telegrams, let's say, we call old style automation now traditional, which is quite funny. But this is like SOAP, XML, web services, IDOC integration. There's so many of these startup companies now with robotics. They will have all weird and wonderful ways of sort of integrating to sort of software systems like SAP. So these are things like AutoStore, autonomous robotic systems, and shuttle systems. Okay, so we've sort of developed into what we call our time to value solutions. These are really accelerators. We're very conscious when we are implementing EWM with automation, the timeline extends greatly. Okay, and we're looking at how we can sort of reduce that and bring these automated sort of implementations into a timeline of a manual warehouse with EWM. Okay, so we've built two frameworks for that. We've built an MFS framework, it's an overview. It's a flexible configuration of standardized and tailored service process steps to be executed at the communication points. Okay, and we've developed an advanced simulation and logging capabilities compared to the SAP standard. Okay, if we look at our WCS framework, this is a sort of extended baseline interface based on the EWM standard WCS integration. Okay, and with configurable interface elements for specific automation hardware. Okay, if we look at our architecture for our frameworks, okay, so we've got the EWM core at the top, which is obviously where the APIs from EWM exist. In terms of the processing, we've got many different sort of functions and features in that processing environment. We've got the login and the KPIs, we've got the monitoring, we've got the alerting if things start to fail or go wrong. Okay, we've got the message processing, and we've also got a concept where we call multi-field processing. Okay, all of these different hardware providers will have their own requirements in terms of the data which is needed from an EWM perspective. So we developed this multi-field concept so we can have different multi-fields for hardware provider number one, different multi-fields of data for hardware provider number two. Okay, and then in terms of the messaging, we've got the REST, the SOAP, IDOC, and any other converters really which we can bring into that sort of landscape. What we find with the robotics is that there will always be a need for a control system, okay, where you have all of these robots flying around the warehouse. Typically there's always like what you call a fleet manager, which controls all of the robotics, and it's very hard to get away from that right now with the robotics. It's different than traditional MFS, where with EWM we can go right down to the PLCs and control that automation. With the sort of, the more sort of adaptive autonomous robots, there's always typically a need for that fleet manager to still be in place. Okay, so that's why we would typically integrate the control system of the robots to the fleet manager and use that control down from an EWM perspective. So I'm going to show you a video now. Now, this was the first ever implementation worldwide. I did mention this earlier, for a company in China called Hasco Vision.
Producing over 500 types of automotive lighting products and supplying some of the largest car manufacturers in the world, Hasco Vision were looking to streamline warehouse operations at their Wuhan facility. A year of testing, exploration, trials and promotion, together with Westernacher, Hasco has transformed its warehouse into a much more efficient, intelligent, goods-finding people hub. Almost 100 autonomous robots cover 640 kilometers and manage over 2,000 SKUs on a daily basis. These automated guided vehicles are able to navigate warehouse facilities at a speed of 1.3 meters per second, retrieving portable bins that are then brought to a human worker for picking tasks. The SAP EWM system regulates the collaboration of these mobile platform robots around the clock, completing over 3,000 logistics assignments per day. The numbers speak for themselves, and accuracy of production supply at the Wuhan plant has risen to nearly 100%. Take real advantage of fully automated and connected processes in your warehouse, and benefit from Westernacher's management by exception approach.
Okay, so it's possible. And what we like to show at Westernacher is we don't want to just talk about these products, but we actually want to show these things in action as well. Hence why we brought some videos into this today, so you can actually see these, the products which we're talking about on a bunch of slides actually in action, so we're actually sort of walking the walk, let's say. Yeah. Okay, so that is the slides and the videos completed. Thank you for sort of listening. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to what we had to say. I hope some of you found it valuable, or all of you, sorry, found it valuable. And over to sort of questions and answers.
Thank you, Neil. Okay. There has been some questions already, and feel free to use the questions section to ask questions and comments, so we can take them and answer them here in the live. So there's some questions. First one is for the drone video, it seems. Why can't the drone fly from aisle to aisle?
Okay, I mean, the way we developed the drone, it's more from a safety perspective, okay? The drone flies based on the sort of XYZ coordinates of each storage bin. Our sort of vision with the drone is really you close off one aisle, okay? You create your flight path. There's nobody sort of accessing the aisle while the drone is counting. The count shouldn't take long either. We're using this automated way of counting. The drone technically can fly from aisle to aisle, but we're just conscious that people and trucks will be moving, and it's just more of a risk averse, really, to be honest.
There's also a continued question related to that one. What about any black spots with the warehouses?
Okay, I mean, what we did when we were doing our sort of test ourselves in the warehouse environment, we realized we couldn't really use sort of GPRS signal data, okay? There's too many black spots, which is why we changed it, and then we used the XYZ coordinates of the storage bins themselves using the sort of functionality already within EWM, yeah? Because obviously we're conscious that if we use GPRS and the drone loses connectivity, it's going to fly to the ground, smash, hit something. So again, it was more of a sort of technical switch based on safety.
Can any glasses be used? So I guess this is for the smart glasses.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that in the sort of presentation. Obviously, what we're using Vuzix right now to build our sort of solution. We're conscious that not everybody's going to use Vuzix glasses out in the marketplace, so we're actually developing a generic application. There will potentially be some rework needed depending on the software which runs the glasses, but the idea is this will be compatible with any glasses out there. Sure.
Also a question about the warehouse noise levels. What about a noisy warehouse environment?
Yeah, and that's why with the glasses, hopefully that came through in the videos a little bit as well. But you have three options available with the glasses. You have the option to use the trackpad on the glass to scroll around the screen and select. you have the option to use voice, and the third option is the option to scan as well. Yeah. So we wanted to build that flexibility into the glasses. Okay. Again, the noisy warehouses, what people individually prefer as well. So that, the three options are available with the glass. Yeah.
Thank you, Neil. And we have still time. If there is any more questions or comments, feel free to use the question section. And actually, there is one more on the automation frameworks related. Can multiple hardware vendors work with the EWM in a single warehouse?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's why we've developed this framework. The aim of our framework is really to enable easy adoption to different multiple hardware vendors within that one warehouse environment, and also really accelerate the timeline for the implementation as well. Yeah, by using this framework to do all of the connections to the multiple vendors. Yeah.
Thank you, Neil. At the moment, there is no more questions, but we have still time. If you have any questions, please send them. And just a reminder, there's a recording coming afterwards also, and you will get some presentation materials also with the feedback form. And I would also, of course, like to thank you, Neil, for presenting the topic.
Okay.
And also, Aki, thank you for presenting. And a big thank you for also everybody who was participating in the webinar this Wednesday morning. Aki, would you like to also remind the topic for the beginning of the June event?
Yeah, in the beginning of June, I think I told that already. June 2nd, we have the business process intelligence in agenda, process discovery, introducing the RISE with SAP, process insights, process manager, collaboration hub, these kind of things. So happy to present that topic to you guys as well in June.
Great. We will open the event site and registration closer to the event. Feel free to join. In the meanwhile, we also have a lot of events coming this spring, so you can find them on our webpage. And please suggest the topics also for us and for Finuk partners, so we know what you would like to hear. But there seems to be no more comments or questions. Any last words from Neil or Aki?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for me, I mean, it's important that, companies using SAP or thinking of moving to SAP, really look at some of the topics we presented today and really sort of maximize the benefits of using EWM.
And please just let us know if we can come online together with you, present this again, take a look at your current situation, your development plans, and innovate together.
Great, thank you. We saw very nice and concrete examples today. I would like to wish everybody a great day and the rest of the week also. And thank you, Aki and Neil, for presenting.
Thank you, Alexei.
Take care.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.